My dears, my queers, and everyone in between, I'm Liliana Kendra, amateur bassist, occasional music producer, and the gayest witch you've ever known. Welcome to the channel. Also, this is Frankie the Toy Poodle. She is suddenly absolutely desperate for my attention, no matter what I do and how many times I try and stop to play with her. So, Frankie, say hi. Okay. You good? I think we're good. No, I think we're in for a treat today. I know I certainly am. We're going to be listening to one of my favorite artists, Starlight Daryl, a relatively well-known, I think, orchestral specialty composer, but she's done a lot of other stuff. We'll be listening to her Starlight Fantasia Part 1. Starlight Fantasia is an ongoing digital album project that she's been working on. She's up to Part 3 out of 4 released. So today we're tackling that first part. Before we get going, I do have a couple of disclaimers on this, though. Number 1, this will not be a blind reaction. I have already listened to Starlight Fantasia Part 1 and 2 and 3 several times over. So you're not going to necessarily see me being surprised by anything, but I do still deeply enjoy this music, and hopefully I'll be providing some entertaining enough reactions. Part 2. This is not an unbiased reaction. As I already mentioned, I am a huge fan of Daryl Barnes. She is one of my favorite composers, songwriters, musicians, producers, what have you. I am familiar with, I think, everything she's done at this point, or at least almost everything from the last, 4 or 5 years. And just about all of it ranks really high for me in my top favorite modern music. And the third part of the disclaimer is Daryl and I do have a personal relationship established, so possibly going to have some influence from that. I'll do my best to remain as objective as I can, but in the interest of honesty, there you go. So as I said, we're going to be listening to Starlight Fantasia Part 1, Per Aspera ad Astra, which is Latin, roughly translates into through adversity to the stars. Now, first of all, as a longtime Star Trek fan, I'm going to make a special note that this is Starfleet's, slogan or motto or whatever, at least as presented in the Strange New Worlds series. So, Daryl, you've already begun speaking to my heart. But I think that this is just an interesting way to title this album. What exactly it means, I think, is dependent on every individual person. But to me, I feel like this kind of means that through enduring life and its twists and turns and inevitable hardships, we become stronger and wiser and more resilient until we reach a point where we can reach up for, our dreams, our goals, that metaphorical reaching for the stars. So that's what that means to me, and I just actually think it's a really neat way to title the album. Now, with all of this out of the way, let's get to listening.
Thank you for joining me for this very special premiere of Starlight Fantasia Act 1, Per Aspera ad Astra. This is the first of 4 acts that make up the Starlight Fantasia story. There are little hints scattered throughout the music in the form of motifs, instrumentation, and sound design. So, if you're keen on uncovering the mysteries of Starlight Fantasia, pay close attention to those things.
I definitely will. Look, I love reoccurring use of leitmotifs, ostinatos, melodies, things like that. It is 100% my jam. One of my favorite video game soundtracks of all time, the Final Fantasy XIV Endwalker, did a stunning job of reusing melodies and motifs to create just a truly stunning is, I mean, I'm going to use this word a lot, but it is a stunning soundtrack, but it's also like genuinely amazing musical storytelling in Endwalker. So, really looking forward to hearing what Daryl has on display here.
And while Starlight Fantasia does feature this sort of fictional aspect, it's also very much a reflection of my own life and journey as a musician and VTuber. In this premiere, I'll be speaking and sharing stories about the latter, and I'll let you discover the secrets of Starlight Fantasia yourself. So, without further ado, let the show begin.
Can we just stop for a moment and say that, like, Daryl's VTuber model is really, really well designed. I mean, I get a little bit iffy about this, like, Genshin Impact style, which I think is what she's trying to emulate with this. But in the case of Daryl's model, I do think that it works really well. It manages to stop just short of being over-designed and conveys a real excellent sense of, like, I want to say regality, but maybe not quite regality, but certainly like someone very put together and classy, and I don't know, just it's a design that I feel like works really well. And while Daryl and I may not necessarily be super close, what I do know of her, I feel like classy and beautiful and well put together does mostly apply to her. I say mostly. Look, we're all with our messes. I'm certainly no exception. Okay. This is something that I love that Daryl does with her albums. In fact, I wish that she would do this more. Is these sort of prologues, preludes, something meant to kind of invoke the tone and the theme and direction, maybe, of the album that you're about to listen to, but isn't necessarily immediately part of it in the musical story that the concept album is telling. She did this also back with Shoujo Fantasia, where she had a piece that acts as a sort of prologue to the album, but is not immediately connected. This is still something I really love. I wish more music producers, songwriters, whatever, would do things like this. So talking about the prologue, Comet Chaser itself, it's relatively simple as far as music goes, but I don't think simple ever means bad. Sometimes knowing how to bring it down a little bit is actually exactly what you need, especially for something that's acting as a prologue. I don't think that Daryl needs to go all in on the prologue, just in enough to let you know what you're in for, and she does a perfect job here with capturing that. One of the things that this that Comet Chaser does that I think Daryl typically does a really good job with is it shows, how do I say this? Daryl seems to have a very particular understanding of exactly where she needs to bring her music down and exactly where she needs to bring it back up for like that sort of maximum emotional punch. Let me see. Yeah, right here. Yeah, just this very brief, she lets the notes finish out, very briefly pauses so you can have just a moment to take it in, and then kicks it right back up. And then one of the things that I like about Comet Chaser is towards the end. Another thing I really love about this is the way that this ends. Now, as we move further into this video, you'll see a little more of maybe what in particular about that I'm talking about, but that is taking like part of a reoccurring motif, but not finishing it. I feel like it would have been very easy for Daryl to do the entire motif there that she uses in other pieces, but instead she does like half of it and then ends it with that chorus line. To me personally, I just feel like that kind of breaks expectation a little bit, and kind of makes, and me personally, it just makes me feel like I'm wanting more once it's done. All right, moving on to the next track. Here we go. Okay, so we're gonna pause here. I fucking love the brass on display in this version of The Girl Who Went to Space. There's actually, I mean, I think there's technically numerous versions out there from things I've heard Daryl talk about, but there's like an original version, and then there's this version that's what's actually on the album. And this version has a lot of brass in it that other versions don't have. And I'm an old school Chicago fan, not the musical, the band. And, modern Chicago is still actually really good. Hot take. Post Peter Cetera Chicago, actually probably even better than Peter Cetera Chicago. I know. I'm going to get a lot of hate for that, but it's true. But anyway, no. I really love the brass on display here. You want to add some extra punch and punctuation to your music. Add a fucking brass section. It worked for Earth, Wind, and Fire. It worked for Chicago. It works here for Daryl. I mean, brass can probably make anything better, or certainly almost anything. Okay, so that like 3-part punch there that keeps popping up in this one. Daryl, can we please get more of that? Like, I know that if you put something like that in every single song you produce, it might take away from how well it works here. But please, can we get just a little more of that as a treat? Maybe, I don't know. Just the punch there, the musical punch. It it just hits so hard, and I love it. So right here towards the end of The Girl Who Went to Space, we hear some of that melody from Comet Chaser kicking in one of the lower levels here. You hear in that lower brass line down there. I really love that. Like I said, I'm all about reoccurring motifs and melodies. It's completely my shit. Let's just go right back to the beginning of this one. Okay, so that transition from Comet Chaser into Girl Who Went to Space, fucking perfect, absolutely magical. Daryl, you don't miss a single beat there, and it just glides right on in, smooth as silk. Love that. But also, I love that bum 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 bum. That I love how dark that feels compared to what we just heard in Comet Chaser. It's kind of a, I don't know, a juxtaposition there, like the dark quality, the dark tone of that, I feel like gives a little bit of a sense of that kind of ominous unknowability of the vastness of space. Yeah, it just something about how darkly toned that is right there after something as bright and cheery as Comet Chaser. I just, yeah, it feels like, okay, now I'm being faced with something vast and ominous and not necessarily evil or bad, but maybe a little unnerving in just like how giant and vast this pending thing is. And right there after yeah, I just love that. It's very subtle, but it's in that underlying layer there. Still a little darkly toned, not heavy, not scary, just sort of like dark and an outlining kind of way. I'm not sure if that makes sense, but that's what I get from it. Okay, so I really love the use of both the horns and strings here in delivering the. I'm just going to call this the Space Girl melody motif. I will do my best to discern these as correctly as possible. As I mentioned earlier, I'm only an amateur in music, so there is still a lot that I'm learning, but I'm trying. Please don't hate me for that. Anyway, the combination of horns and strings there. Yes, we have the brass right here. I love the alternating. It is an excellent way of kind of, I want to say punctuating, not punctuating, accenting. I think that's the word I'm looking for. I feel like it's an excellent way of accenting the difference between the two halves of the motif right there. It also just makes it really easy to discern between kind of the rise with the brass and it's a little bit of a fall there with the strings. And so using two different sets of instruments to convey it is a really great way of letting your ears. Oh, but before we move on too far ahead here and I forget, I actually did want to stop here and talk a little bit about the other version of The Girl Who Went to Space, because I actually just so happen to have a copy here of this was a promo CD that Daryl was beginning to produce at some point back a couple years ago, and under normal circumstances, I have relatively few criticisms, if even any, of Daryl's music. But the album version of The Girl Who Went to Space does actually leave me with one criticism. It's a criticism purely based on personal taste. It is not something that I think Daryl could have necessarily done better in any way. So I have the original version on the CD here, and we're going to listen to, maybe not the whole thing, but we'll listen to some of this, and then I'll talk a little bit about this, criticism-ish that I have. So right here, we've got already got the presence of like synth as a layer. Um, you also might notice that the overall tone is a little brighter in this version. I'm going to be really honest. I personally feel like for what the girl who went to space is supposed to be conveying, I feel like this brighter tone suits it a little bit better. Um, Not to say that the album version is not fantastic, because I genuinely love both versions of this. But I personally feel like the brighter tone of the original just, I don't know, it feels a little more adventurous. It feels a little more fantastical. And to me, it just feels a little bit more suiting. Uh, However, counter to my own critique there, I will also still say that the darker tone in the album version does probably do a little bit of a better job of conveying this, like, that kind of mildly unsettling vastness of the cosmos and the unknown. So I think both versions are excellent. There's just things about the original version that I personally like a little bit more. One more thing on that. So again, we have that synth in there, and I don't know. I feel like it works really well. I personally feel like it blends in really well with the orchestration. I'm not sure why Daryl wanted to take that out. At the end of the day, it's her own project, and she can do what she wants. And again, the final version is truly excellent, and I love it. I just feel like the synth. Hi, Frankie. Is a really upbeat, cheery, joyful, adventuresome kind of a layer there that works really well. Personally, I kind of miss it. Now, the final thing though. Yeah! Okay. The loss of that guitar riff is genuinely a crime against art and humanity. Okay, hi, jump scare. I know the lighting is suddenly very different. I had to go and, pause the recording, go and take care of some stuff, and it led to other stuff, and then hours passed, and I can finally sit back down and finish what I was doing. Sorry if it's distracting. All right, now let's get back to the video. So, I understand that Daryl prides herself on, first and foremost, being a like an orchestra, orchestra inspired, classical inspired composer. And don't misunderstand me, she does extremely well at that, and she has several pieces of music that I think genuinely are like, yes, this is absolutely what symphonic music, orchestral music, canon should sound like. But I think that Daryl is genuinely at her best when she's blending, modern and classical sensibilities. Some of, I think some of her favorite work is stuff that combines all kinds of, modern influences, rock, techno, other kind of things blended into her orchestral compositions. And I think that that's what makes the original version of The Girl Who Went to Space so good. And not just that it's good because of blending different styles together, but also Daryl is genuinely an excellent guitar player. From what I've heard, she's extremely skilled at several different instruments, but I do think that her guitar work is among the best in currently living modern day guitar players. And yeah, I'm including that amongst like still living legends, like, I don't know, even Carlos Santana or Lindsey Buckingham. Like, I'm not exaggerating. I genuinely think Daryl is a phenomenal guitar player. And personally, if I had it my way, pretty much every album that she produces would have at least two or three pieces that feature her guitar work. Magica Obscura from Shoujo Fantasia is absolutely one of the best pieces she's ever done. And that features an incredible guitar solo in there. And so, just an example of what I'm talking about. But I don't know. I just feel like maybe somewhere along the way, Daryl seemed to like have second guessed herself on the original version and decided to change it up a little, well, a lot, and give us this other version. And so that's where we ended up with the album version that we had. I don't know. I think at the end of the day, they're both still excellent. But before I move on, let's just listen one more time.
The album starts off with two back-to-back songs, Prologue Comet Chaser and The Girl Who Went to Space. Gosh, I really miss these back-to-back songs and albums, Prologue Comet Chaser was written about my adventure chasing Comet to Chinshan Atlas last year. I nearly missed it.
I remember that. I remember when you wouldn't shut up about it, Daryl. And that's not an insult. To be perfectly honest, I kind of really loved how much you were obsessing over your nights out stargazing and the photos you were taking. I even managed to hang in a few of your streams back when you were talking up about that a whole lot. It was a lot of fun.
There is, I think, a sort of innocent, childlike sadness in missing a celestial event like a comet sighting. It feels sort of like missing a birthday party or something silly like that. Because when you're a child, those trivial little things can kind of feel like the end of the world for you.
I actually do kind of understand what you're trying to say there, though. I mean, I don't think I'm as into stargazing as you are. I certainly don't really go out of my way most of the time to try and bask in it. But I do understand, like, there's a very real beauty in space and stars and nebulas and planets and just the way that, like, the great cosmos have all unfolded. There is a genuine beauty to it. And I have been disappointed at certain previous points in my life if I've like missed meteor showers or something that I knew was supposed to be occurring. So yeah, I kind of understand what you're saying.
And I think humans are kind of like the children of the universe, young, naive, and oblivious to the universe's unfathomable secrets.
Despite my last name, I am not young, and I'm definitely not naive. Kind of cynical, actually, in a lot of ways. But I am oblivious to the nature of the cosmos. So you got me on that one.
I began writing The Girl Who Went to Space in 2021, never quite feeling satisfied with it.
I know. You did great. You did. All of my ranting and ribbing aside, you genuinely did a phenomenal job with it. Both versions. Both versions.
Rewritten this song like 12.5 times.
I know!
But I think I'm finally happy with it. Well, I better be, because I'm kind of releasing it for realsies. Going to space is one of my biggest dreams, but it's also sort of this metaphor for my journey of becoming a full-time musician and VTuber and leaving behind my old life to pursue this difficult yet fulfilling career. I hope that The Girl Who Went to Space instills in you a sense of wonder, adventure, and the willpower to explore the terrifying and the unknown.
Yeah, try getting into politics. You want to talk about terrifying and unknown, which has become my day job. Okay, let's go back. I want to listen to that a little again. Okay, yeah, so right away we've got this nice bold horn coming through, and it's like, preparing for something grand, something bold, and then we bring it down just a little bit for the I can't quite identify the instrument, but it sounds to me like strings, maybe guitar. I'm not entirely certain, but I love that Daryl brings it down a little bit after that horns, lets it rest on that for just a few seconds, and then we have the not cymbals, chime of some sort. I know what it is. I've seen it. I can't recall the exact name. I'm just going to call it a chime. If you're watching this and you know what the actual word for it is, please drop it in the comments. Save me a Google search. But no, I love it. It creates this image in my head of something shimmering, something sparkling, like stars. So yeah, right away we've got bold horn, like we're in for something big and grand and adventuresome, and then we have this like sparkling image in my mind, and we're off to a great start. Okay, I can't identify the exact instrument, but I hear that um, that woodwind layer. It's possibly a flute. I know that Daryl does play flute. Not a clarinet, but it's something. But I like it. It is. It's this like subtle little playful feeling, bouncy kind of feel, almost giving me an image of like somebody like in old cartoons where characters would like bounce off of stars and moons. I kind of get that image in my head from that. Okay, and by the way, really loving that underlying percussion layer. It's doing an excellent job of not just keeping the beat, but it's like I feel like it's what is propelling this journey through the stars, um, and it's not overpowering. It's not like in your face, but it's just strong enough on that underlying layer beneath everything else that I feel like that's kind of what's driving this like playing and bouncing amongst the stars. Mm-hmm. Okay, good. I'm really loving this chorus layer here. And I actually like that it's not constant, that it'll go for a couple of seconds and rest, go for a couple of seconds and rest. I feel like it's very easy to use a chorus layer, a chorus line, like constantly without letting it rest. And not that that's a bad thing, but I feel like it can kind of create a little bit of an overpowering feeling. And letting it rest here, here and there, I feel like that's actually letting the chorus punctuate the song in places without being an overwhelming presence. Let's listen to that again. Okay, now I'm really loving this. We've dropped the chorus and we've dropped the percussion layer. It's bringing it down without letting the whole song rest. Kind of like giving it a moment to breathe. But we've also got. I'll back this up a few seconds. Yes, that. Okay, so there's a little something there. What is this? Okay, yeah, that right there. Now I know what I'm hearing. I've heard it in 1,000 other pieces of music. Exactly what that sound is, I can't quite identify it, but um, it it gives me a feeling similar to the like twinkling sound from the start of the song. It kind of gives me this feeling of like almost like coming upon a very particular star out in space and uh, just like pausing for a moment to watch this one specific star kind of shimmering and twinkling off in the near distance. That's kind of what that puts in my head. There we go. Yep. Okay, classic Daryl. All right, she brings it down, she lets it rest, and then she picks it back up. I just again, I mean, this is something Daryl is so good at, and I mean, she does this relatively commonly, but I do feel like she's mastered this in a way many other producers, songwriters, I mean, might do well at, but just nobody does this quite like Daryl. But again, bringing it back up in just the right moment and with just the right instruments. I love that we pick it back up with another horn horn line here. Um, because again, horns do a really great job of conveying this sense of grandiosity and boldness, and so it's like yeah, we're traveling through space and we're kind of playing out amongst the stars, and then we take a moment, we rest, we find this one particular star, we watch it as we contemplate it, and then we are like back off again on this grand journey through the stars. There we go. Okay, bringing it down again. Here in the wood. Get back up. Okay. Okay. Yeah. No, that was really good. Um, what was this called? Right, the Solar Winds, I believe. Yeah. Fantastic piece. It does this really excellent job of conveying this sense of adventure and play, and this like I get this feeling of like yeah, we're traveling out amongst the stars and moons, and we're like you know using moons, like crescent moons, as slides, and bouncing off of stars, and we're stopping to ponder like particular, I don't know, nebula or planets or stars, and well, kind of wrapping up with this really wonderful kind of crescendo of the strings and the horns and everything, all coming together with like an excellent little uh, uh, punch there at the end. No, just excellent piece. Okay. Okay, so right away, complete polar opposite of Ride the Solar Winds. So Ride the Solar Winds kind of gives me this impression. So like the transition from Ride the Solar Winds into the Dark Eternal Ocean gives me this impression of like Ride the Solar Winds is like the immediate solar system, right? Like here, you know, like our closest planets and moons, and like maybe just a little bit further beyond that, but like here, relatively close to Earth, and then now we're going deep into space. We're going, not just like out there into the wild cosmos. So like we're going deep into the unknown, places that have never been charted, places we've never seen in our telescopes, and it's kind of, it's certainly very mysterious, but also a little foreboding. So I'm immediately getting that feeling. Oh yeah. Give me that organ. Come on. Mm. Right. So I mean, like organ in general is a very imposing instrument. It's very powerful. It's very grand in not just feeling but in size, and it uh, you know that on its own is definitely giving this feeling of like something imposing, but the slow and deliberate string layer combining with that is giving the feeling of we're not just in the mysterious unknown. We might be someplace we should not be. We might have actually gone too deep while exploring the stars and space. We probably should turn around now. Okay, so we've brought all of that down. So I'm loving, like, we took the strings away, we took the organ away, and we just have this. Uh, no, I can't quite place what instrument that is, but having just that, and there's this like subtle echo effect with every note. It is giving this feeling of we're alone. We have we've wandered way off the beaten path. We're lost. We might be somewhere we shouldn't be, and we're alone. And now that we are like this far away from everything and we're isolated, it's also this kind of, I feel a tad bit introspective. Like, I most certainly made some interesting decisions that have led me to this point. And I might need to think about that for a moment as I'm trying to figure out what to do next. There's a motif back. Yes, yes. I feel cold listening to that. That's the strings right there just make me feel cold and alone. So kind of maybe it's time to set aside the contemplation. Let's keep going. We have to maybe try and find our way back to somewhere familiar. But on the way trying to get back to something familiar, we're still way out. We're still alone. We're still out in territory that we probably shouldn't be in. So yeah, this kind of, I'm going to call it an alarm noise. This is excellent. I'm gonna kind of go back earlier. Now I mentioned being a huge Star Trek fan. It almost makes me think of the red alert siren on the Enterprise or something. But even separate from that, it's giving me this feeling of like, yeah, we have definitely stumbled into something dangerous, probably even deadly, and we really should not fucking be out here. And we have to, if we can't get around this, we'll have to punch through it. But which either way we're going here, we gotta we gotta go. Okay, so yeah, um, the danger maybe subsided, but uh, like that last few seconds there, let's listen again. Yeah, so this is like maybe that immediate danger with the alarm is has passed, but we're still ending this on um, like a dark and lonesome and urgent note. Still a sense of isolation and uh, like a foreboding quality. So it's like, we're still not safe, and we still need to find our way back to somewhere better, a safe harbor of some kind. Okay, on to the next.
One of my favorite movies growing up was Treasure Planet. It was sort of this ultra romanticized sci fi retelling of Treasure Island in space. You had pirates say,
Excellent movie, by the way. It's not necessarily one of my favorite Disney movies, but it was some genuinely fantastic animation, and it's a fun adventure movie. Not everything has to be ultra deep. Sometimes just like a surface level adventure is perfectly fine, and I think Treasure Planet did a really good job with that too.
sailing in these 18th century ships through space as if it were some immeasurably vast ocean or something. Anyway, that movie left such an impact on me, and I think it's part of the
We
reason
can
why
tell.
I fell in love with the stars. Anyway, Treasure Planet is sort of what I imagine the new golden era of space travel to be like. When I was composing Ride the Solar Winds, I imagined myself as a starry eyed celestial swashbuckler on an epic romantic adventure across
Romantic. She said the thing. Just in case you're not that familiar with Daryl and her work, she says the word romantic all the time. Uh, it's pretty much her catchphrase. Well, Daryl has two catchphrases: romantic and I love women. And you know what? Mood, girl, mood.
the universe in my solar powered boat. It may be unrealistic, but I think that sense of romance and whimsy is what inspires me to write such vivid orchestrations. On the other hand, Into the Dark Eternal Ocean is the first departure from the whimsical direction thus far. It's a piece about getting helplessly lost during an interstellar expedition, left to the cold, uncaring, sublime forces of space. But luckily for us, there is a certain someone who has the power to bail us out of that kind of situation.
No, I have not watched this video version of Starlight Fantasia before. I've only listened to the album on Bandcamp. So it is really cool that I am getting pretty much this exact kind of mental image that Daryl is hoping to convey without even knowing specifically what she was trying to go for. I don't know. I feel like that's just a testament to how strong her music is, that it's able to paint such an incredibly vivid picture without me having to like read something or hear something supplementary to it. Okay, on to the next. Ooh, okay. So right away, we've got that sense of like whimsy and adventure coming right back in. We've got, you know, uh, sort of like a twinkling, shimmering starlight sound, and then that horn. I love that horn. Let's listen to that again. Also, yes, I recognize that that's that same motif, Daryl. Thank you. Um, no, I love that horn. It feels like something giant uh, coming closer, but not threatening. Something I'm not entirely certain if I can say friendly yet, but it feels like there's something, maybe something is like curious. It's like okay, contact with the interstellar narwhal. I do kind of know what that character in Daryl's lore is, um, but it gives me the sense of there's something giant and curious coming to I don't know, just like check us out. It's like um, not sure what we are and like what we're doing out this far into space. Mhm. Okay, I'm loving that. We've got this higher pitched. Is that a horn? I want to say that's a woodwind. Um, Again, I do have a little trouble discerning the exact instrument, but we have a higher pitch there, and if you're really listening, there's a bassier. Is it a horn or is it another woodwind? Let's listen a little closer. I think that's a horn. Yeah, so we've got like it's lower in volume, it's bassier, it's a little bit of horn creating like a almost like a bassy foundation underneath that woodwind. Loving that. Um, yeah, so I'm getting this sense of like curiosity of something. Like something is curious. Okay, yeah, loving that. Yeah. So we're kind of I don't know, we've met something large has come our way. It's curious about us and maybe it is kind of friendly, and the like sense of isolate. I no longer feel the sense of isolation. I no longer feel alone. I now feel like there's this presence, human or otherwise, but this is like a friendly presence. It's like becoming a companion, and the sense of like wonderment is returning. feel like we're getting back out into exploring the stars. Saxophone? Ooh. Okay, that almost sounded like xylophone. What was that? Let's listen a little again. There's the layer percussion. It almost sounds like xylophone. I can't. Yeah, but whatever that is, it's adding to this like this sound that gives us a impression in my head of like twinkling stars off in the distance, kind of bringing that sense of wonderment of stars in space back. Okay, yeah. So, yeah. So the sense of like isolation, loneliness, it's gone. The sense of danger is gone. Like, you know, this large, you know, maybe a little intimidating, but still friendly presence. It's come. It's befriended us, and we're now like resuming the journey of exploring space, and you know, it's brought back that sense of wonder and intrigue and joy, and it's a little more calm than before, like with the girl who went to space and ride the solar winds. It's more calm than that. It's kind of given me the impression of like, yeah, let's get back out there, let's do some exploring, but we're gonna be maybe a little bit slower, a little bit more careful. We're still gonna have fun. We're just not gonna like maybe go charging off quite as recklessly off into the grand unknown of everything. That's the impression that I'm getting from here. Okay, on to the next.
The interstellar narwhal is my VTuber mascot. He's this sort of space fish who...
I am not a space fish. Neither am I a VTuber mascot. I am he who is old as the universe itself, all-powerful and feared even by forces no mortal was meant to perceive. I witnessed the Big Bang and swam across the reaches of space and time to make a contract with Starlight Daryl so that she may traverse the uncharted regions of the universe and fill its silent void with beautiful music.
It's the voice, the hyper high tuned pitch is just killing me. I cannot take it seriously at all. Oh my god, I love it. Daryl, girl, my sister, you are such a fucking goofball. Please never change. Please never, if you do change, please never lose that part of yourself.
Well, there you go. Anyway, Contract with the Interstellar Narwhal is the Narwhal's theme song, and it's actually something I started composing when I was 15 years old. That's a really, really long time ago. Please don't make me count the years, okay?
Hey, you're still not as old as I am, okay? So at least you have some youth left to you. I have gray hair coming in. Don't talk to me about aging.
In a way, it's kind of like the narwhal has always been around since even before my VTubing journey began. I guess that really does make him ancient, doesn't it? The next song is the final song from Act 1. I won't say too much about it, actually. But the title came about during a conversation with someone I hold very dear. When she said the words, "Stay with me here on earth," this was the song that played in my heart.
You don't have to say much more. I know exactly what you mean. Okay, on to the music. Okay, I want to go back and listen to that. That was interesting. Okay, I don't want to say too much yet, but I feel like I understand exactly what's being conveyed here from this music. All I'm going to say right now is that I have been no stranger to the ups and downs of romantic relationships in many different forms, in many different contexts, and I feel like I know exactly where this is headed. Beautiful layer. Yeah, I don't know. I don't. This feels very heartbreaking to me. Yeah, so I'm getting this very strong sense of kind of like a longing for something familiar, but also if I'm feeling this sense of like an understanding that something has come to an end. Okay. Oh, wait. Why did I pause it there? Terrible time to pause, actually. Let's listen. Yep. Okay, yeah, exactly. So I love how that ends. So there is a feeling of like romantic intimacy, romantic love in this, but it's not happy. This gives me this very strong feeling of longing for something familiar, longing for something held dear in the face of understanding that what we're longing for may have come to an end, which is a feeling I'm very familiar with. But I like the way this wraps up. Let's go back. Yeah, so that gradual up and up and up on the piano there, I really like that because that gives me this impression, this feeling of like, yeah, we've just lost something very dear, very, you know, something that we wish we could have back, but also kind of an understanding of losing something here doesn't mean that the journey ends. It doesn't mean that the world ceases to be. It means that this ending will simply become the beginning of something else, which is kind of how I feel like life, not just our personal lives, but life in general. I feel like it's always been, nothing ever really ends, and nothing ever really begins, because every ending leads into a beginning, and every beginning is coming from an ending, and it's just this ongoing cycle. I'm getting philosophical here, but that's what that piano there at the end is giving me the impression of.
Thank you again for joining me for this special premiere of Starlight Fantasia Act 1. It's so surreal to finally have these songs out there, and I'm so excited to share the rest of the Starlight Fantasia story with you. But that's for another time. Until then, per aspera ad astra.
Absolutely beautiful. So yeah, this was a fantastic start to the Starlight Fantasia project. I loved every single piece on here. Yes, even the album version of The Girl Who Went to Space. I know I completely derailed this whole thing by going off and ranting about the original version, but I do love everything on here. Yeah. Daryl, you did an amazing job in this of conveying, you know, the like roller coaster of joy and exploration and intrigue and isolation and danger and terror and you know, heartache and hopefulness, all kind of, you know, blending together and gliding from one to the other. You know, nothing about this to me feels like it could have really been any better. I think every single piece transitions, glides into each other piece beautifully, flawlessly. And I feel like your innate sense of what makes music work is very fully on display here, and it's just a phenomenal album. Very much looking forward to moving on to the next one. So I'll start working on that as soon as I can here. Daryl, my sister, my wonderful, beautiful sister, thank you for this musical gift, as I have thanked you many times for your other musical gifts. I mean it every time. And I am very excited to do more of these. If those of you watching enjoyed this, let me know what it is you enjoyed about it down in the comments. If you didn't enjoy it, let me know what it is you didn't enjoy. If you were neutral on it, let me know why you're feeling neutral on it. Whatever, drop a comment. Let me know what you think, and I'll consider those as I'm working on more of these later on. I know this was a little rough around the edges. You got to work with what you got, though, right? Otherwise, I'd never get anything done at all. I'm Liliana Kendra, and I've had a blast working on this. And, as my beautiful sister said, per aspera ad astra.